5 years after several Milwaukee area men began working for a courier company, they say they are still trying to recoup thousands of dollars in lost wages. Their story involves alleged racial discrimination, which they believe is tied to unlawful labor practices. Here's the I-Team's Kristen Byrne.
Independent contractors versus employees. One comes with more flexibility, the other arguably more protection, sometimes including health benefits. So what happens if you believe you are in the wrong category? One man says he and his former colleagues experienced that. They say it hurt their pocketbooks, and they also allege unlawful labor practices were happening because of their race.
It just got bad, and we were saying we got to do something, we got to stand up for ourselves.
Reggie Blount is one of 4 men who filed federal lawsuits against their former employer, Fleet Courier Inc, an Illinois company that transports medical equipment and has a hub in Brookfield.
Our hours were very long, and a lot of hours we weren't paid for at all. We may work 60-hour weeks and only make $300.
In one of the suits, the men allege unlawful employment discrimination on the basis of race.
They were adjusting the routes to give us the lower paying routes.
The men allege they were treated as employees, misclassified as independent contractors, therefore denied minimum wage and overtime pay required by federal and state laws.
It just felt like we were being used.
It's a significant problem across the country, but certainly in Wisconsin as well.
Jesus Villa with Wisconsin's Department of Workforce Development's Equal Rights Division says worker misclassification costs the state about $40 million in tax revenues each year.
So these are all taxes that employers have to pay for every one of their workers.
He says in an effort to cut costs, an employer will classify their workers as independent contractors and not employees. Across the country, the topic has pitted gig workers against their employers. In December of 2019, Uber and Postmates sued California, trying to block a historic labor rights law. It still took effect in January of 2020, requiring companies hiring independent contractors to change their classification to employees. Months later, exemptions were added, allowing Uber, Postmates, and most other app-based rideshare and delivery platforms to keep their independent contractor title. In our state, DWD data shows misclassification investigations went up from 2018 to 2019, then dropped dramatically in 2020 because of COVID. With Reggie Blount and his former colleague's case, the state sided with the men, agreeing they were employees and not independent contractors. But he's still seeking justice. Taking his case to a federal judge is the next step.
There hasn't been a time that we haven't used due diligence.
Fleet Courier's attorney told us the company generally does not comment on pending litigation, but says they have a strong defense against the plaintiff's claims. Reggie and the other man's attorney told us he wouldn't have filed the suits if he didn't believe he has a strong case. For the I-Team, I'm Kristen Byrne.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, being a gig worker has pros and cons. Some positives include flexibility, variety, choosing work that aligns with your passions. But downside to being considered a gig worker include scheduling inconsistency and, of course, lack of benefits.